I'm recording it now. No. So what it does is it actually logs me in, okay, and when I go from a page, okay, to say another page where I would say, uh, I don't know, onions, okay, and okay, so it actually looked up in the mail, okay, so let me actually do search web, okay, so even when I search it on the internet, it would actually still show up my name, okay, and if I actually get out, okay, since Wikipedia isn't an affiliate site of Yahoo, I wouldn't be able to use my credentials. But if I actually go to any Yahoo site, okay, okay, at that point it would carry forward that I am the user. Okay, here it would actually carry forward that I am the user. So how? So the way that it is possible is by using the concepts of cookie and sessions. Okay, so with cookies and sessions, what we do is we actually are uh, keeping a track of who has already been authenticated and who needs to be authenticated. Okay, and the way we do that is by storing a copy of the session of the user on our server. Okay, so let's actually go to straight. Wow, why is it taking so long? It looks like it's a slow evening. Everything's going slow. Oh boy. So okay, so sessions and cookies. Okay, so just so we understand, when a is the user, okay, a browser, okay, when a request is made, okay, via HTTP, all the web browser does is fire and forget. Okay, so that is why a web browser is so good at what it is. Okay, because it makes a request and it forgets it. When the data is available, it actually loads that data. Okay, now HTTP takes us to the web server. I mean, or the load balancer if there is one, but eventually it goes to the web server. We go to the server side script, okay, and finally this script does a few things, okay, and if we are saying that we are logging in, okay, or if we are saying that we are requesting for a username and password, okay, or if there is a say like a location, okay, shall say, um, yeah, I'll just take an example of this one. Okay, so now this is my what is it, this is the URL that I've used once I log in. Now let me actually see if this works if I'm not actually logged in. Okay, so I'll actually open up another browser. Okay, at that point that would actually redirect me to the login page. Go, because here I'm going to my inbox, okay, but it actually is taking me to my login page, and the reason for that is this area is protected. Okay, so we can actually protect the protect a certain area by saying that that would need user authentication. Okay, so when the server side script actually checks if user authentication is required, okay, at that point it would actually request, it should actually redirect us to the login page. Okay, now once we get onto the login page, okay, once we are on the login page, okay, we would be looking for two things, okay, or sometimes more. Username, two things would be username and password. Okay, if the user doesn't have a login, we would always route that person to the registration page, right? Here there will be multiple things: username, password, confirm password, and some personal details. Okay, now let's actually see what happens when we given the username and password. When the username and password is given, okay, another HTTP request is made to the web server. Okay, server side script, okay, looks for this data somewhere. It could be a database, it could be Active Directory if you are working on a Windows system, or it could be any custom data store where we are storing our users. Okay, so goes to users data store. Okay, and based on the query that we have, we would either get the password, or we would either get the check to see if the user exists. If the user exists, we would return a success message. And one thing to keep in mind with the success message is, yeah, one thing to keep in mind with the success message would be to create a session, because it doesn't look good for us to make our user login multiple times, okay, for multiple pages where authentication is required. Okay, so create a session, store a session, and on subsequent uh, request, check if the session exists. Okay, okay. Now for the registration page, uh, is this legible? I'm sorry, is this legible?
Yeah, yeah, I can.
Okay, give me 1 second. Raw is pissed off. He hired someone from. Yeah. So, registration, login page, and registration. Yeah. So, in the with the registration page, what we would do is, um, yeah, with the registration page again, you would actually make the HTTP request. Okay, which would send all this data to the server side script. So honestly, let's actually trash this and let's copy it from here. Okay, and let's actually push it here. Okay, that doesn't look good. So now the server side script, what it would do is it would actually add the user, okay, to the users data store. Okay, and then if that is a success, okay, so once you actually register the first time, you shouldn't be expected to log in again, right? Because it will be a bad user experience. So at that point, what we would do is we would actually register the user, and then we would create a session, and then we would actually take it from there. So okay, yeah, okay. So at this point, let me quickly ask you all if there are any questions with the uh, basics that I've mentioned of a login page and a registration page.
No.
Okay. So now to facilitate this, okay, to facilitate carrying data during page navigation, okay, to facilitate carrying data during page navigation, we would use, okay, we would use sessions. Okay, I mean you can actually use get, post, sessions, and cookies. Now can anybody tell me what is it that we would require with get and post? Okay, I mean why can't we use get and post on every page? Why use something different when we can actually use get and post for page navigation all the time? Alright, so I mean the reason is get and post again would require a form to be there on a page and would always require a user action to be there has to be some kind of user action, okay, in order to use get and post. But with sessions and cookies, it is all up to the server side script to pick up the data, okay. And one other thing is sessions are not a concept of PHP, okay, they are a concept of the internet, okay, and we are just using that concept, we are just using that concept, okay. So same thing with cookies too, okay. We'll actually come to cookies in a little bit, okay. It is similar to sessions, okay, but the cookies are stored on the client side, okay. Okay, sessions are stored on the server side, and it makes complete sense that sessions are going to be sessions are more secure given that we are actually storing them on our side, okay, while cookies are not so secure because they are stored on the client side, okay. So users can manipulate the data that is coming over, okay. Yeah, and again the last thing obviously is going to be the size, okay. We can actually store a good amount of size in sessions because we own the sessions, okay. Unlike cookies, the cookies are actually stored in the temp directory, okay, on the client side. So we do not have the rights over the size of cookies, okay. So with this information, let's actually begin. Okay, so let me actually close this guy first. So irritating. Yeah, clear. So let's create an application. Create an application for sessions. Okay, so let's go to sessions. vi index. So let's actually remove. No, we'll leave this. Yeah, so let's actually keep this index.php file. So actually delete this data. Let's open up. Let's build a small HTML file. Okay. Set body, and in this data or in this application, let's actually create bunch of links. So actually say login, and let's say register. Then let's say id equal to content. Okay, and we are saying that dollar, okay, php. So let's for now just say that is user logged in is equal to 1. Okay, so and I can actually, I think we can use this. Dollar is user logged in echo user is in else. Okay, let's actually open up this page, sessions.com/php. Okay, so now what we have here is we have two links. Okay, so in one link what we are saying is I mean, so the first link is a login link. Okay, and the second link is the register link. Okay, then the third, so we are actually checking to see if the user is logged in. Okay, and for now what we have done is we actually are just like manually putting the data in. So let's actually create a, or let's actually see what's available in the database. Sudo bash mysql minus root minus py. So databases. Okay, so we have a bunch of things in here. Let's say select star. So let's say use. Let's actually use the employee app. So we can actually get rid of the sessions and use what is already there. So let's say show tables. Oh, so there's only one table. Select star from. Okay. So what we have here is oh, interesting. So what we have here is we actually have a single employee table. Okay, and then we actually have a bunch of employees sitting in here, and it looks like we have made this column a self reference, which means that the boss id maps back to the employee id. It's more of a self join. So let's actually not use this one. Oops. So let's say use show databases. say use students, or let's actually use online purchases. I know we have 3 or 4 users in there. Just from users. Oh, so we have 4 users in there. Okay. So what we can do here is at a given point, okay, there can either a user can be logged in or a user will not be logged in, right? So let's actually build a way of storing if the user is logged in or not. Okay, and the way we would, but we don't have a password field in here. Let's actually skip this data. Okay, and let's actually build a new database. Let's say create session db. Oh yeah, create database session db. So in here, let's actually say create table users. Mm, So id is int not null auto increment um, username varchar30 password varchar30. Okay, so id, username, password. What else? Basic name. Okay, let's give it varchar30 and like this. So what all will we do? Okay, yeah, so let's say we would build a registration form. The registration form we would need the username, so it's, I mean, these things, f first name. Let's keep the registration form simple, and let's do that. Okay, and then uh, primary key would be id. Okay, perfect. Use create session db. Huh? Oh boy. Okay, varchar. Okay, so let's say show tables. Let's describe users. Okay, so id, username, password, first name and last name. Okay, and the id here is the primary key. Okay, and it's auto incremented. Okay, so let's actually begin with this one. Okay, but we'll actually face a small issue once we start, I mean, once we open it up for users to register. Can anybody tell me what would the issue be? Okay, so let's actually get to that issue when we will get to that issue. Okay, for now let's actually begin by building the registration form. Okay, so let's quit here. Yeah, let's, okay, so on the index page this should be a link. Href is equal to slash register.php. Login. Okay, because in order to register, I mean, in order to log in, you have to register first. So let's build the registration page first. Href is equal to slash register.php. Okay, I say register.php. Okay, in register.php, this would be a form. Okay, HTML, head, head, body, body, form, method. I mean, since we are working with user data, we'll use post. Okay, action. So let's actually give the action as the same page itself. Okay, so let's use a table. Username, type equal to text, ID, name is equal to username. Yeah, that's it. Let's actually copy this guy. IBP. Oh, oh, oh. So username, yeah, password. So since this is a password, we'll have to make sure that it is hidden and the password element type is used. So this would be first name. This would be first name. And obviously the final thing has to be submit button, right? Type is equal to submit, name is equal to submit, a type name and value. Okay. So one thing that I've noticed is I did not close my input element. So I'll have to close that first. Okay. So let's actually load that page again. Okay. Now we actually are in the registration section. Okay. So now anything that we do would again go back to the same page. The reason for that being the callback here is register.php. So now let's actually look for it. Now let's actually say that only look for this PHP if the data has been posted. And a quick way to understand if the data has been posted or not is by using the isset function to check if something is set in an array. The array is going to be the post array, and what we want to be checked is the submit value. Okay, because if that exists, it means that somebody has clicked the submit button. Okay, so now let's actually print the data out for now. dollar underscore post. Okay, let's say username is xyz, password is abc, first name is whatever, and the last name is, yeah, I don't know. Yep. Okay, so here, so hang on for 1 second. So abc, yeah, so this is password, so it is hidden. Okay, but here we actually are printing this data because submit is active. Okay. Okay, so now that we have this data, what we'll have to do is we'll have to find a way, okay, to store this data in a dynamic, in a static storage. Okay, so the static storage for us is obviously going to be the database. Okay, the second part is the password. Okay, when the user had entered it, so like what I did was, as user I've entered in xyz abc first name and last name. Okay, but when I'm actually hitting submit, okay, the data that's being printed is of text type, which is okay. But the other problem is, what do we do with this text data? Mainly the password. Okay, the password in any database should never be stored as a text string. Okay, if we actually do that, we actually are putting ourselves and the users that we work with in jeopardy. The simple reason for that being, if our database is hacked, okay, people will actually have access to all the usernames and passwords, and the worst part is that they actually would also it's in readable form, it's in text form, which is actually which actually very bad. Okay, give me 1 second. 10 minutes. Okay, yeah, so what we would do to avoid this kind of an issue is, at a very basic level, we will actually be using a hashing protocol or a hashing algorithm, okay, called MD5, okay, okay, to convert the text data into cryptic data. Okay, so let's actually use hash generator. Okay, so if the user enters MD5, okay, this is the MD5 hash of the user's password. And if I actually go crazy, and if I actually try and make my password a little more complex, okay, this would be my password hash. Okay, so what I would do is, I would actually take this password, hash it, okay, and store it in the database. So at this point, let's actually check what is the database type that I've given, or like the data type. So split vertically MySQL um, root uh, session db, select star from, oh yeah, describe users. So I've only given 30. So let's actually take a look at alter command to see how we can alter an existing columns data type. So let's say alter table users. I guess it is modify column password varchar 80. Okay, perfect. It actually worked. Okay, so now let's do describe again. Okay, so now it actually changed from 30 characters to 80 characters. We wouldn't actually need 80 characters because it is only, so let's actually count how many characters we have. I think it's 26, but just to be on the safe side, uh, let's do a character count. Character count. Okay, so it's 32, it's not 26, I'm sorry. So it's 32 characters. So it was a good call to modify the number, because it was 30. At that point, we would have lost two digits. Okay, and now that we're here, let's actually take a look at something to see. Okay, yeah, it is powered by Bootstrap. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I was actually looking to see what is the underlying theme that they use, and that is a very popular theme. Twitter Bootstrap. It's a very popular theme, and they're actually using that. So now what we'll do is, so let's actually create local variables for all these items. Okay, let's actually create local variables for all these items and start pushing it into the database. So let's say dollar username is equal to dollar underscore post user name, dollar password is equal to, yeah, but here we would be using md5. Okay, and the method or the function for that in PHP is md5. Okay, and we would say that we do not want a text password, but we want the hash of the password. Okay, then you would say dollar first name is md no, so we do not want to hash any other stuff. Okay, all you do is you just use the data as it is, or just but now so let's say last name is equal to dollar underscore post last name. Let's actually echo them out. Username, password, first name, last name. Okay. Okay. This is last name is, oh cha. Okay. So here I actually put in the whole thing. What I should have put in last name. Okay. For consistency purposes. So let's actually do this. Let's actually reload the data. Let's say XYZ ABC first. Let's say Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton. Okay. Let's say submit. Um, undefined is L name. So why is it failing now? Let's inspect with Firebug. It is saying that it is L name here. Line 37. So let's actually, not sure if I'm getting what's up here. But yeah, let's actually print the data out. Print underscore dollar underscore post. Let's put in a next statement here to see what are all the things that are coming back. Oh, it's still coming back as last name. Okay, so let's actually refresh the page. Okay, now let's verify that it is L name. Okay, so now let's again do this XYZ ABC Bill Clinton. Okay, now when we submit it, okay, fair enough. Now we actually are getting L name, F name, password, and username. Okay, now we have the same keys for which we are creating um local variables, and we are actually echoing the data out. Let's actually see what happens. Nice. So here we have the, oh sorry, so here we have the username, you have the hashed password. Okay, you have the first name and you have the last name. So now what we'll do tomorrow is we'll actually start pushing this data into the database, and we'll actually try and log in. Okay, so that would be the first step. Once we log in, we'll actually start working on the sessions. Okay, with 5 minutes left, let me ask you if there are any questions. Any questions from today's session or any questions from sessions before?
By tomorrow or day after, I'll finish listening to all the sessions that I missed,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'll start doing seriously. So I'll catch up.
Okay. So Munjal has a question as to that password hash once again. Okay. So password hash. Okay. So let's actually take a look at the data that's actually coming in. Okay. Okay. So the password is actually coming back as a plain text. Okay. But assume that you actually have a very popular website. Assume that Munjal, you actually run Facebook. Okay. Assume that a bad guy comes and hacks your website. Okay, the first thing that they would do is, as soon as they get access to your boxes, is to steal your data. Okay, because nobody cares about code or anything, because anything can be rebuilt easily. What they would look for is the data, because that's of a lot of value. Okay, once they assume that they actually get access to the users table, okay, at that point they would actually have user information of everybody. Okay, but if they do not, I mean, if they have access to the text data, they can do whatever they want. Okay, so to avoid that, what we are doing is, we actually are uh, creating a password hash, okay, of that data. Now if your question is how would we verify when the user logs in or user registers, we'll actually be looking at that tomorrow. But for now, the only thing that you'll have to understand is, we are generating a like a hashed copy, like a cryptic copy of a of a text. So if I actually say that, okay, at that point this would be the password hash for that. Okay, but if I just want to say md5 test hash, okay, so this would be the hash for this string. Okay, it's like a safer way of storing this data, and the good thing about it is, you cannot unmd5 it, if I may, if that makes sense. Okay, you can only md5 a string, but you can never unmd5 a string easily, at least. Okay, so there are still hackers who actually break md5, but it's not done on a regular basis. Okay, so I mean, to avoid somebody unmdifying your password, what we normally use is a little complex concept of using a salt, but we'll actually look at it probably in like the next two sessions. But for now, only thing that you'll have to understand is to is that rather than storing plain text, we'll be using a cryptic copy of that plain text. Does that make sense? Yeah, perfect. So if there are no more questions, let's actually call it a day at this point, and tomorrow we'll begin with we'll begin by inserting data into the database and building up our sessions from there on. Okay, so just another reminder, the session would be tomorrow 8 p.m. Right.
Okay, see you
All right,
tomorrow.
thank you all, enjoy your evening.